Let us move towards the topics of mains. And the first topic is in the relation of textile industry. So when you see the general studies paper, you will see that in GS paper 1, an important section of geography mentions an important subsection further, which says the locational factors for the industrial distribution. Okay, the context in which this article has come in the newspaper is the recent challenges or the issues which are faced by the textile industry of India. So we will be covering that aspect also, because obviously it has come in the newspaper, so we have to cover it. But before it, we will also cover the locational factors, right? So let us see that what are the important locational factors for the textile industries. Okay, so first and the foremost is the raw material. Now we will understand that uh, with some examples from India as well as from the world, which will substantiate the fact that how all these factors have affected the distribution or location of the textile industries. For example, let's say when we talk about the raw material, so in India, now just think about jute industry, right? So which is the region which has the highest concentration of the jute industry? That is basically the Hooghly region, or you can say the Ganga. So we were discussing that how the presence of raw material has affected the distribution and location of textile industries not only in India but across the globe. And we will do this with the help of examples. So we were discussing that if you have to take the example of, let's say, jute industry in India, so where do you think that most of the jute textile industries are located? They are located in the West Bengal state, that is the Hooghly Basin region. We can also call it the Ganga Brahmaputra Delta region. Why most of the jute industries in India, more than 80% of the jute industries are concentrated in that small location? Because that region only supports the jute cultivation, right? So yes, other factors are also important, but this raw material, how this raw material is significant, this proves this fact. Similarly, if you have to talk, let's say, about cotton industries, okay, so the regions of the states like Maharashtra and Gujarat, if you go by the important cotton textile centers like Surat, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Nagpur, all these cities are located in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Why? Because this region has black soil, which is good for growing cotton, right? So we have the cotton over there, hence the cotton textile industries are there. We have the jute in the eastern region of India, so we have the jute industries, right? So raw material impact the location and distribution of industries in this manner. Next comes the proximity to the energy resources. If we are, let's say, talking about jute industry, again, taking the same example, in the state of West Bengal, the energy to these industries are also provided by the Raniganj coal field. So again, it is in proximity to those areas, right? Obviously, if you have to run the machines, if you have to run the industries, you require a continuous support of electricity, right? So if we have to run this DNS, we require a continuous support of electricity. So what happens is that for this continuous energy and this continuous electricity, you need to have some energy resource in the nearby area. For example, the Raniganj coal fields in the context of jute industry of West Bengal. Okay. Then comes the importance of labor. Now, when we talk about the labor, so there are two criteria. One is the cost. So the cheap labor will obviously attract the industrialists. Second is the skills. So the skilled labor will obviously attract the industries now. But the thing is that both of these things are contrary to each other. If the laborers are more skilled, then obviously they will demand more wage, which in turn will mean that labor cost will increase. So that is why it becomes a very tricky question for the industrialist to decide or to find the mid path between the cost of the labor as well as the skill set, right? And this cheap and skilled labor particularly has proven their significance in the context of Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh is one of the toughest competitor to India when it comes to the textile industries ecosystem. And one of the biggest advantage for the Bangladesh is the availability of cheaper labor compared to India. So the skilled labor is there in India also in the context of textiles, right? Cotton, jute, silk, etc. Skilled labor we also have, but when it comes to the cost, so the cost of labor in India is very high, right? And in Bangladesh it is low. So this is the issue. Then when it comes to the transportation, so again we know for any industry, any factory to perform efficiently, we require forward as well as the backward linkages. Now what do we mean by forward linkages? For example, let's say this is the industry. So the forward linkage of the industry will be with the markets. So industry need to have, let's say, roads which connect the factory outlet, the industrial outlet with the forward markets. But this industry will be able to make products only when it will get the raw material, and the raw material is the backward linkage. So the raw material will come from here and the final product will go to the market. So this part is known as backward linkage and this part is known as the forward linkage, right? So now just think that why many of the textile industrial centers in India are located in cities. Again, let us take the example like Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai. Why? Because all these cities are in close proximity to the ports. Again, a important means of transportation. Why? Because ports have their unique advantage, right? Roads will distribute it to the roads, have the last mile connectivity, so they will distribute it to the far flung areas, to the hinterlands. But the ports have the unique advantage of import as well as export. Okay, so when we say that if let's say India has to import fiber, okay, so obviously the first point of interaction will be the port. So fiber will come to the port. So why not to establish industry near to the port only, right? That is how you will reduce the overall transportation cost. Similarly, if the end product is being made, it is being manufactured, then if it has to be, let's say, exported to the other markets, then again you require ports. So again, establish the industries near the ports. So this is the reason, right? Similarly, the availability of market. Now just think that what was one of the important reasons that the textile industries shifted from Europe towards Asia and Africa, because this particular region, one, had a tropical climate, right? So they will be requiring, let's say, cotton clothes. Second, these regions also have a very high population, which in turn will say, which in turn will increase the demand, which in turn will be a very potential market for the European countries, right? So this is how the market is important. Then comes the role of capital and technology. Again, let us take the example of Europe. So earlier, the textile industries were located in the European countries. We all know that UK was one of the greatest textile power, right? Why? What was the reason? Because in Europe, we found the industrial revolution started. This industrial revolution provided the capital and technology to the Europe, and hence there was availability of capital, the power loom developed, the technology enhanced. So that is why the textile industries also got developed over there. Eventually, when now if we see now these locational factors are being shifted towards Asia, Africa, right? For example, now we are also having capital, now we are also having technology. So again, industries shifted, but this shift against the earlier location in Europe, present location in Asia and Africa, and this shift all prove the fact that how all these factors are operating together, right? So let's say if the question is not directly that what are the location factors, let us say if the question is that you have to analyze the major shifts in the textile industry globally. That means you have to analyze that what are the reasons responsible for the shift of textile industries from Europe, let's say, to Asia and Africa. So how can you analyze? Just focus on these factors and see that how these factors now are dominantly operating in the Asian African region, not in European region, hence the industries. Next is the government policies, right? So again, now this government policy is very important. For example, now we shall take the example of Vietnam. So whatever textile exports Vietnam does with the Europe, all those exports, all those products are basically duty free in Europe, which is not in the context of India, right? So when India is exporting, let's say when European Union is importing the Indian product, they are levying duty. But when they are importing the Vietnamese textile product, they are not levying the duty. That means in the European market, India's product will be costlier because the duty will be added to its cost. On the other hand, Vietnam's product will be relatively cheap. So that means which product will the Europeans buy? Quality is almost similar, right? So on the basis of the cost, obviously Europeans are going to prefer the Vietnamese product. That is how the government policies are affected. Now, if you take the example of India also, we know that Indian government is taking a lot of steps. They have come up with several schemes. For example, they have started the Project Sure, right? So if you know, then okay. If you don't know that, just have a look that what is Project Sure. It is basically for the textile industry. Similarly, the government is also promoting the establishment of the integrated textile parks under the scheme SITP, that is Scheme for Integrated Textile Parks, right? Then there is also a scheme Samagra Silk. So the government is doing its bit, and again, that is how the government policies impact the textile industry's evolution and its growth. These are the factors, right? Now let us move towards the various issues and challenges which are there in today's newspaper also, and which basically our Indian textile sector is facing. One is the continuous increase in price of the raw material as well as the input cost. For example, the fiber takes up around 60 to 70% of the part when it comes to the textile manufacturing. And this fiber is getting costly. That means 60 to 70% of the overall industry, the inputs which is required by this industry, 50 to 70% share is commanded only by the fiber, which is increasing its cost. Right? Now, it is becoming expensive in the domestic industries. So that is why India has to import the fiber from the other countries. If India imports the fiber, then it leads to the burden on the economy. Also, because now India has to import because domestic fiber is expensive, if the India is importing from some other country, that in turn means that the domestic industries will face losses, right? Because we are not buying from them, government is not buying, government is rather importing. So if the domestic industries are facing losses, then what will happen? There will be layoffs, right? There will be job losses. The profit margins will reduce. If the profit margins are reducing, that means what will happen? These textile industries or textile centers will shut down. Obviously, anything who is working is for the profit, na? So if industrialists are not having the profit, they will shut down. And this is exactly what is happening in India presently. Many of the textile centers are getting shut. Then next issue is of the low production and yield. This can be understood also in the context of the climate change, because of which there is a rise in disease and pest attacks, and we know that how the pest attacks are detrimental for cotton crops. So the yield is also getting low, production is getting low, right? Then we have discussed the job losses. Next comes the fragmented supply chains. Now, there was a data which compared India and Bangladesh. Okay. And it said that, let's say, if an Indian manufacturer has to supply around 20,000 to 30,000 pieces of textile, let's say, in general, not to a specific product, in general. So this much amount if the Indian manufacturer has to sell, then it requires around 90 to 120 days to ship this load of product. the same load of product is shipped by Bangladesh in just 14 to 20 days. Now just see the comparison. Here we are taking around 100 to 120 days. Here Bangladesh is taking just around 15 to 20 days. So just understand the efficient supply chain which Bangladesh, which other countries like Vietnam are having. Next issue is the high competition, again from Vietnam and Bangladesh. These are our major competitors. When we talk about quality, so they have better quality. When we talk about duty-free access in the context of the European Union, we said, so they have better government policies which support their textile exports. If we have to talk about labor cost, we discussed it also that in Bangladesh, the labor is relatively cheaper compared to India. So the industrialists are attracted towards Bangladesh. So these are certain factors because of which India faces stiff competition. Then, yes, we just discussed that India came up with the schemes for establishment of integrated textile parks. But then there was a report and study which said that most of these parks are located outside the city. Now, again, see, it is very difficult to locate such a huge integrated park within the city, right? Because then there will be different issues. There will be an issue of land acquisition, there will be an issue of transportation, there will be an issue of congestion, pollution, etc., right? That is why these parks are located at some distance from the city. But then this again comes up with certain issues and challenges. For example, the labor mobility becomes a huge challenge. So the daily wage workers want lesser commutation, right? So that is why they will be more attracted towards the industries which are present within the cities, and hence they will be more aligned towards the informal small textiles clusters or centers within the city. They will not be moving to a larger distances and to commute to the far-flung areas. Also, it was said that the integrated parks, when we compare India with our competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, the average size is around 150 acres of these integrated textile parks, the average size. In India, this average size is just half, 75 acres. So that means integrated textile parks in India are also of smaller size. That means again the issues of capital, issues of technology, issues of land, all those issues are interrelated to each other, right? Then the issues of marketing and skilled manpower. India presently does not invest much in marketing, branding, and promotion. So let's say, what are the names of silk which you know except mulberry? Even if you are knowing, then you must have known, you must have read geography well, so you must be knowing the other species also. But let's say if you talk to your parents or if you talk to a common people, they are aware about mulberry, but they are not aware about the other qualities. Why? So we have focused, obviously we need to focus on mulberry, but we have excessively focused on few products, and there are many other products, and not only in the context of silk, in cotton also, in jute also, there are many products which we need to focus upon, right? For example, in today's time, Europe is moving away from the plastic bags, and there is a very high demand for jute bags in Europe. So why are we not promoting our jute bags? Why we are still focusing on plastic bags? We have the jute industries in the Hooghly region. We can tap the potential. The market is ready in Europe. So we need to shift our focus towards the products which are in demand now, right? So these are various issues and challenges which the textile industry in India is facing. Okay. Again, if you have to think about way forward, you just have to tackle these issues. You need to invest more in research and development. You need to reduce the complexities in the labor laws to attract the industrialists, right? Then you need to have several bilateral and regional cooperations in order to lesser the duties on the India's textile exports, right? Again, if you understand the challenges, then obviously you can come up with the way ahead also. So this was the topic. In this regard, we have discussed locational factors from geography perspective and issues and challenges of textile industry from GS1 as well as GS3 perspective. Okay, so this was a pretty lengthy topic, but yes, done good. Okay. And if you feel that this topic is good, then yes, do like, subscribe, and share this video, okay, and engage with us. And you can also ask your doubts after this session in the comment box. Now let us move towards the next topic. Yeah, this was a diagram where you can see that how there is a fall in the India's exports. So this is a fall. Similarly, here also the man-made fiber textiles are falling. Similarly, this graphs also shows in this particular period from 2019 to 2020 2021 that the India production manufacturing is getting reduced. But when it comes to the Bangladesh, it is rising in this particular period. India is falling in this particular period. Okay, so we have discussed it. Okay. Now let us move towards the next topic, which is from the context of international relations. And the topic reads India's growing neighborhood dilemmas. Okay. So there are certain issues and certain dilemmas which the author in this article has come up. So we will be discussing those issues and dilemmas in the context of India's neighborhood. And then it will be very interesting to understand that how we are sandwiched between different challenges which are being faced. How from each and every corner of India we are facing the challenges. For example, let's say if we have to talk about Pakistan, right? Our most friendly neighbor. So what are the issues which we face? We face insurgency, we face terrorism, then we face political instability in Pakistan itself. Now, political instability in Pakistan is obviously challenging for them, but their instability also impacts us. Similarly, if we are talking about Afghanistan, so here we know that Taliban has taken the control. So they have established the political power, right? Earlier, there was a time when we were not in talking, we did not want to talk with Taliban, but now because they have come into a political power, so it has, so a very precarious situation has risen, right? Then here when we talk about China, our second most friendliest neighbor, so we all know that there are continuous skirmishes along the borders in this region as well as in this region and this region. The borders which we share with China, so there is a continuous tussle going on between the militaries of both the countries, right? There are various territorial claims also by China in this part as well as this part, right? Then we are also aware about the fact that the influence of China is also growing. Its influence in Nepal, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, in Southeast Asia, right? So basically, China is dominating in the South Asian region. Again, a challenge for India. And also, we know that if we leave China, okay, except China, all the other countries which are neighbor to India, India is the biggest country. And that is why it is said that the big brother perception of India is also detrimental to India's own foreign policy, right? So China is also growing its influence by supporting various countries. If we have to talk about USA, which is not a neighboring country, but the thing is that in India's neighborhood, in the neighboring countries of India, the influence of USA is diminishing, right? So USA is going back, it is retreating back, and this power vacuum basically is filled by China. When we have to talk about another neighboring country, Bangladesh, so here there are issues of drug trafficking, cattle smuggling, illegal migration, etc. Then in this context, there is also another important challenge when it comes to the policy formulations. Experts believe that India still has a status quo in policy formulations. What do we mean by this? Experts say that in the neighboring countries, India is more aligned to a one particular leadership and it altogether ignores the other leadership. For example, in Bangladesh, India is particularly aligned or particularly want Sheikh Hasina, but we do not give required focus or attention to their opposition leaders like Khalida Zia. Okay, so when it comes to the foreign policy, because we do not know that in the next elections which leader is going to win in our neighboring country, right? So yes, there can be preferences, but we cannot ignore the opposition leaders altogether. Okay, so this status quo should not be there, right? When it comes to Maldives, so in Maldives, there has been a rise of anti-India regime, right? So again, this also becomes a challenge that if in the neighboring countries there is a rise of anti-India regime, then obviously the bilateral relations will be affected. Again, a challenge, right? So these are various challenges which the author has come up in, the author has come up in this article, read as India's growing neighborhood dilemmas. Okay, so that is why we have restricted our discussions to the important dilemmas which India is facing, right? Okay. Now let us move towards our last topic. Now this topic is from General Studies Mains Paper 2 perspective, right? From the part of polity, and you might have as rightly guessed that this topic is in the context of the Keshwananda Bharati judgment. The immediate context is the importance given by Supreme Court to the Keshwananda Bharati by a nearly 5-minute video, by producing a 5-minute video by the Supreme Court in 10 Indian languages in order to showcase the importance of this particular judgment. And we know that what was the most important outcome of the Keshwananda Bharati case? It was the doctrine of basic structure, right? So in this context, we will be discussing that what are the key elements or key basic structures in the Indian Constitution. But first, before it, just have an overview of the basic structure. Now, what do we understand by basic structure? So we all know that we have a constitution, right? And this constitution created the parliament, correct? And this constitution gave the law making power to the parliament. Okay, so the law will be made by the parliament. Who told this? Constitution told this. Okay, so now the thing is that parliament no doubt has gained the power to make any law, but then is this an absolute power? Is there any check on this? Yes. So that check will be provided by a different organ, and that organ is what? Judiciary, right? So the legislature has the power to make the law. Judiciary has the power to interpret the law and to verify and to see that whether that particular law is within the constitutional boundaries or against the constitutional principles, right? So this power again is given by constitution to judiciary. True? Okay. So now what happened was that parliament got the power, but judiciary said, for example, there were many cases before this. So an important case in this Keshwananda Bharati, the important subject which was being discussed was that whether the parliament has the power to amend the constitution under Article 368, and by this constitutional amendment, can parliament take away the fundamental rights? Yes or no? This was the debate, right? In the Keshwananda Bharati case, the judiciary said that yes, you can take the fundamental rights away, but you cannot take away those things which form the part of the basic structure doctrine. Okay. For example, let's say secularism. So now secularism is a basic structure doctrine. Similarly, let's say judicial review. So judicial review is a basic structure. So that means the parliament cannot frame a law which goes against the secular principles of India. Parliament cannot frame a law which takes away the power of judicial review by the judiciary, right? So they can frame a law, but within the boundaries of the constitution. Why? Because it is the constitution which is giving legislature a specific power, which is giving judiciary a specific power. Okay, so that means who is the supreme? Which is the supreme thing? Supreme is the constitution, not the parliament, right? Okay, now because constitution is supreme, that means that is why supremacy of the constitution was again said to be a basic structure by the Supreme Court. So I guess now you have understood that what is a basic structure doctrine. Okay. Now, if we see this particular chart here, important facts are written that which are the key important elements of basic structure in India and in which case this element became the basic structure. Okay. For example, supremacy of the constitution and judicial review. These were made the part of the basic structure in Keshwananda Bharati case. Second, sovereign, democratic and republican nature of India. Again, to be just notice these words: sovereign, democratic and republican nature of India. Again, this is a basic structure. So parliamentary law cannot overrule, cannot overtake this sovereign, democratic and republican nature. Which case? Indira Nehru Gandhi versus Raj Narayan. Next is the secular character as well as the federal character of the constitution. So the parliament cannot make any law which goes against the federal principles, against the secular principles. Important case is SR Bommai versus Union of India case, right? Then is the freedom and dignity of the individual. This is also basic structure, right? So important case is Menka Gandhi. Parliamentary system, parliamentary form of government is a basic structure, right? So you cannot go for the presidential form of government. Parliamentary form of government is a basic structure, right? And then we have harmony and balance between the fundamental rights and directive principles. Minerva Mills case. Independence, judiciary, SP Gupta versus Union of India case. Free and fair elections. It is Mohinder Gill versus Chief Election Commissioner case. Now, just a small typing error is here. So you will provided the specific name of the case for the parliamentary system also in the Word file, so you can refer to it. Okay. So yeah, guys, these are the important facts and these are the important cases for this, right? So this was the thing which I wanted to discuss in the context of this news article, right? And this was these are the topics from my side. If you people have any doubts, any questions, so you people can ask. And also again, if you are gaining anything from these videos, which we surely feel that you are, then do like, subscribe and share these videos and engage with us and support us also.